Ah, yes, the Pokemon DS games, often referred to as the best era of the franchise. You had Generation 4 and 5 on here, which are all contained bangers besides Diamond and Pearl, I guess. Now, unfortunately for me, I haven't touched any of these games in my life, but I've played other iterations of the regions. I've beaten Brilliant Diamonds 3 times by now, I recently played through Pokemon White, and I beat Silver back in 7th grade. But I wanted to experience all of these games, and what better way to do that than by Nuzlocking them? But I didn't want to make my experience that boring. No, I decided to use hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which means in addition to the big two, there's also no items in battle, which is a rule I've already used, and level caps, which means no leveling past the next gym leader's ace. I did this to balance out the fact that I'm using rare candies to not make me fall asleep while grinding, and also to not risk unnecessary deaths on an important team member. 4 games: Platinum, Soul Silver, White, and White 2. No experience on anyone besides the one I struggled to beat. Let's see how far I can get in each of these games, and maybe outdo my only Nuzlocke win in Pokemon Violet. This is my adventure with the DS Nuzlockes. Alright, we're here in Pokemon Platinum, but I guess I'll get this out of the way immediately. I'm sorry, but there will be big-ass buttons for every game but White 2. I did not discover the hide buttons option until I accidentally clicked on it while playing White 2, so if you don't like these buttons, I don't know what to say. I'll only bring this up because I find them annoying as shit, and I think all of you guys do as well. If you're a 1 in a million person that couldn't care less and just want me to talk about the damn Nuzlocke already, thank you. Anyways, at least I didn't commit theft to get my starter this time, unlike in Diamond and Pearl, and of course to maximize my winning odds at this Nuzlocke, I go with Chimchar and name him K-Dot. And yeah, I think you know the nickname theme already. Anyways, K-Dot slaps up my rival Yankee, and now it's time to start the journey. I pick up my generic ass encounters on my way to Jubilife, and then pick up some more once I reach the city. If it wasn't clear, I won't go into much details with my encounters here, because I am covering 4 whole games in one here, and also because I would not like to spend 3 hours in my room reading the script. Anyways, it's time to fight Yankee again, but the fight was easy, so nobody cares. For any sports fans watching, don't bring up my Mets in the comments, that's a sore topic for me. Just like literally any other sports team I support, because they all either suck, or are good but are allergic to winning anything. Anyways, it's time for my first gym fight after a short hike there, picking up some other nice encounters. And also, I won't lie, this isn't my first attempt. I lost 3 to Rourke on my first attempt with Platinum with Piplup, and just decided to restart because I needed the content. Every single other Nuzlocke featured in this video is my first attempt, so don't worry about that. Anyways, this fight was piss easy, because Big X the Plug the Budu somehow sweeps this entire fight, all thanks to an insanely lucky critical hit on the Cranidos. After this first gym patch, unfortunately means it's time for one of the scariest early game fights in most Sinnoh Nuzlockes, Commander Mars and her stupid fat cat. But luckily for me, I have Slim the Luxio, who easily takes care of Zubat and tanks a feint attack to fire back with a spark that gets an insanely lucky paralysis. Thanks to that, I now send in K-Dot, who is now safe to punch the cat to death. After a quick trek through the forest, it's time for Gardenia, and I have another great matchup here thanks to Shady the Staravia and my obvious starter. Shady takes care of her first 2 easily, but then he's too low for me to want to risk losing him against Roserade, so I pivot to Tyler the Gyarados before switching in K-Dot due to an unfortunate stun spore. But luckily for me, he's still able to 1v on Roserade, but just barely thanks to a full paralysis and risking a critical hit at the end of the fight. But I am still deathless, so I'm a jolly man. But now it's time for the other scary early game commander. But guess what? I still have Slim that I risked a crit on a Night Slash, but he continues to own these galactic commanders by getting a paralysis from Spark yet again, which gives the perfect setup for Tyler to Dragon Ages his way to victory. After that, there's nothing else to do besides head straight for Fantina. And oh boy was this a fight. The game doesn't give you much options to deal with ghosts besides Pokemon that have Bite, so you can only imagine why I was really scared of this fight, and oh my gosh it showed, because this took a whole 6 minutes to get through. I lead with Slim, who easily takes out Duskull and is left with half HP after dealing with the annoying ass Haunter. I pivot to Shady on a well-predicted Shadow Ball from his Magius, but unfortunately for me, a confused raid leads to 2 self-hits and Shady having to take a Psybeam, which leaves him with just 9 HP before getting any damage off. This means that on my pivot, I can't predict what move it will go for. I decide my best bet is Tyler, and I was correct due to him taking Psybeam really well. He gets confused, but hits through with a bite that does insane damage. A Shadow Ball doesn't do much, but gets the Spadef drop, and Tyler hits himself on the same turn, so with that unfortunately sequence of events happening, I decide to pivot yet again. I go to my Gligar Rocky, but then realize he does not tank it at all, so I kinda start to panic, but I still see somewhat of a line. Switch to Shady on a guaranteed Shadow Ball, pivot to Big X, and hope he does something. Which he really doesn't do at all, barely making a dent with a Mega Drain. I realize I have to sacrifice someone to get a safe switch to Tyler to finish off the fight, because I know damn well a bite would kill from this range. I think about switching in K-Dot, but I figured it's too risky because of the risk of Psybeam. It would just lead to the same result anyways, with me being below half HP, and just not wanting to risk crit and then having to pivot again. So, with a heavy heart, I decide to sacrifice the Roar Killer himself to win this devilish fight. Big X, you will be missed. But guess what my dumbass does after this? Yeah, I send in K-Dot. Oh my gosh. I avoid the crit punishes and pick up the win, but as you'll see, I seem somewhat knowledgeable of what I'm doing, but in reality, I'm one of the worst Nuzlockers to ever exist, so keep that on the back of your mind. Alright, with that freaking essay of a fight done, I can now easily beat the shit out of Yankee's team and head for Veilstone City. Luckily, the random ace trainers are much easier in Platinum compared to Diamond and Pearl, so I'm easily able to get by them. And even more lucky is Maylene's fight. Shady takes out Metatite and most of Machoke's HP before I decide to swap into Psyduck to kill it off. I don't know why I gave this fucker the name Moss, considering I sacrificed him against Lucario, but whatever. K-Dot does much of Lucario's HP before I have my Deadly Fish finish it off. I head to Pastoria City, and now I think is a good time to mention that I feel like a solid third of my encounters in this game. For my memory, most of them sucked, but still relevant information. And honestly, I only say this because my fight against Casher. Oh wait, yeah, Yankee exists, my bad. I was unprepared for this fight because I thought it would happen after I leave the city while chasing down the Galactic Run, but I still beat his ass with no trouble, luckily, so who cares. As I just said, my fight against Wake is pretty uneventful, but thanks to me having two insanely good Pokemon for this fight, Slim and Kung Fu Kenny the Leafeon. I wish I listened to more stuff back then because I would have had more options for the nickname theme instead of using Eminem and Kendrick twice, but whatever. Anyways, Gyarados gets one-tapped by Slim. I switch against Quagsire, but might actually go to my Gastrodon Mike first. I switch to Kenny, but he yawns, so I stall with some chip with Mike until Yawn comes out again, so Kenny can come in and grab the kill, and then a combo of him and Slim, 2-shot Flow Soul thanks to a crit Spark. Not much events outside of the gym have imposed much threat, but that was until Route 210. And now, this isn't because of the fight being hard, no, it's because I'm a freaking idiot. I decided to leave Dot out against a Gyarados because I thought he would outspeed and do good damage to the Raichu, not thinking about the Gyarados easily having the potential to kill him with 2 shakes and a lamb's tail. Yeah, I lost my starters to some random fucking ace trainers. Besides that, Cyrus is a joke, and then Yankee's also pretty uneventful, with his only scare being Staraptor. Before Byron, I decided it would be beneficial to head to Iron Island for a Riolu egg, but guess what? I guess I have to make a trade for it, because a random H-Trainer Staraptor could a takedown to end Slim. Keep in mind the first takedown that he had to tank hella low-rolled, and it also looked insanely unlikely that a crit would kill. But luckily nothing else happens there, and then I spend eternity biking back and forth for my Riolu friendship for him to evolve. And all that hassle just for me to wipe the floor with Byron with my Magmar, Tyler, and Mike. But his Bastion was a bit of a nuisance to go down, but it does no damage, so I wasn't in any danger at all. I then head to the blown up Lake Valor to fight Saturn, and usually this is a forgettable affair, but no, his Toxic Croak decided to lock the fuck in. He hit Callie the Gardevoir for big enough damage for her to die to a crit on the following turn, and obviously not wanting to take the risk, I sub her out. I go to my Lucario named Pusha T, but I decide to set up a Swords Dance for a guaranteed kill, I guess? I don't really know what I was doing here. He whips out a Revenge and does a shit ton of damage to me, so I decide to switch to Mike. I tank a hit, fire back with a lackluster earth power before a revenge crits and kills Mike. Shady finishes off the Toxicroak easily, but if I saw that switch earlier, I probably would have been fine and not have to lose someone, but whatever. Luckily for me, Mars and Lake Verity is a pushover. I lose Magmar on the way to Candace because I'm very smart, and now it's Candace time. I lead incorrectly with my Rapidash, but it doesn't matter because I just switched to Pusha and kill Sneasel anyways. Piloswine gets owned by Tyler, Abomasnow gets dog-walked by my Rapidash, and then Frostlass came out. Not wanting to risk jack shit, I switched to my least valuable Pokemon I brought here, Cuddy the Sudowoodo. But then Frostlash just decides to spam Double Team, and eventually a Rock Slide connects and nearly one-shots Frostlass, which allows my tree to Tango Blizzard and then hit through Evasion yet again to win the fight. After a bit in the HQ, it's time for my second showdown against Cyrus, and man does he prove himself around this time. I won't go into detail, but his Honchkrow and Crobat were both pains in the asses, with Honchkrow needing Tyler and Shady to finish it off, but Rapidash was barely able to 1v1 the Crobat, with it using a Fire Blast to finish off the stupid bat, so I don't have to risk my team to members in the back in case Flamethrower didn't kill. Luckily, Saturn in the back was easy thanks to me setting up Dragon Dances on Bronzor. I climbed Mad Coronet to stop Team Galactus' evil plan. Mars and Jupiter's fight takes a whole 12 minutes, so I won't go into detail. Just know that everybody on my team had to put in work because Barely was a useful little dipshit, and I still didn't lose anybody anyways. After that, Cyrus summons all the legendaries and gets put into Distortion World by Giratina, so me and Cynthia head in. After some puzzles and enjoying my life in this world, somehow it's time to fight Cyrus again. But oh boy, this doesn't go well. I'll let myself do the talking here.
That's huge. Come on, please. Please, Oko, please. Crit! Yes! Thank you! Oh my gosh. You tank this. You tank this. Come on, Callie, please. You have to tank something else, Callie, please. Please live, please! No, she never lives this. That was such a bad play. What the fuck am I doing? I am +1. Oh, freeze? No. We live this. We live this any day of the week. What? I refuse to believe that just happened. No. No, I just lost Gyarados. I just lost my best Pokemon. Oh wait, X's are super effective! It's so over. I won, but at what cost? My best Pokemon is now dead. My counter to Cynthia's Garchomp and an easy league member, gone. And to be honest, Callie isn't that terrible of a loss, but still a good Pokemon nevertheless. I've lost some of my best throughout the run, and it's come back to bite me in the ass. Slim and Dot would have both been huge helps to this fight, but instead they are in their graves, and now even more join them. This run still seems recoverable, don't get me wrong, but you underestimate my stupidness. I catch Giratina, but I'm not going to use legendaries in any of these runs, so they aren't incredibly easy. I had to Shining Sword, depressed, hopeless, and paranoid that more deaths would come my way. But to rekindle my spirit a little bit, Volcanar is an easy opponent for me, due to Rocky and Pocket the Quagsire, even if I risked a little bit against Luxray. I didn't even need Joey for that. And even more lightning is my victorious run through Victory Road with 0 deaths. But I still have 6 terrifying fights ahead of me, and oh boy were they not going to be easy. First up is Yankee's Final Stand, and his Staraptor had me contemplating my life's existence, trying to find a counter to it. But I found an absolutely diabolical one. My Weasel that I bent the entire game ends up killing it with Ice Beams. From there, the fight is actually pretty simple. Shady kills Roserade and Heracross despite its sleep turns. Pock also gets a chain kill on Rapidash and Empoleon, but then his Snorlax is a bit of a pain. I deal about half with Kenny before it gets too low, so I have Rocky try to pick up the kill, and he nearly does. This The near kill from Earthquake now makes Snorlax rest, allowing me to easily send in Pusha to Aura Spear my way to victory. And then I spend the next 12 days quivering my boots about the Elite Four ahead of me. Even though I had a team planned out and knew what to do, I was still scared to death. I ended up bringing Shady, Puck, Pusha, Joey, Rocky, and Kenny to the league. And let's see how this goes. First up is Aaron. Shady leads, and I think it's panic time. This unexpected death kinda ruins everything now, doesn't it? You know, I would go on to tell you how I'm able to heroically play it past this entire Elite Four with this brutal loss on my shoulders, but the reality is, I don't even beat Aaron after this. Another air slash crit leaves Rocky with 10, which leaves it as easy fodder for Drapion. Joey revenges, but ignorance of Earthquake not being super effective against Sizzlord leads to his unfortunate death. Pusher revenges, but fails to kill Heracross due to him not picking up the kill, which leaves Vespiquen. But because it spams Defend Order, it's unwinnable now, even with an Ice Punching Puck. So even though I could have won here with better luck, I simply didn't get any of that whatsoever, and it led to me getting screwed over. This was an unfortunate wipe, but now I completely get the platinum hype at least, and I still had fun with this run. Once this happened, I uploaded my gameplay and long speech afterwards, and I titled it something odd. The first of 4 tragedies, and in the description I wrote why. I said that I predict that I wouldn't win a single one of these Nuzlocks, but I'm gonna prove that sad little bastard from a couple months ago wrong, I hope. Let's move on to Soul Silver and see if I can do it right off the bat. Alright, we enjoyed Johto. Let's actually win this time. I start off by picking Cyndaquil. I did this because him and Totodile are interchangeable for my favorite starter in this region, and I used Totodile my silver playthrough back in 7th grade, so let's change it up this time. And I named the Cyndaquil Crunchyou. After an unexpectedly long intermission, or that's what at least it felt like walking to Mr. Pokemon's house, walking back, listening to an old man, then going to Violet City, only to climb an annoying tower and fight a bajillion trainers. And then plus my rival that took 2 minutes I think because I was on fast forward, but I didn't wipe, so who cares. Anyways, with all that sludge out of the way, I can talk about the first badge now. And it was actually really boring. Pidgey died easily to Crunchyou, but Pidgeotto was just annoying. He kept spamming Sand Attack on Crunchyou and got him so low that I summed him out, only for him to roost when I swapped in DRXX the Mareep. And then I played the long game, with me spamming Thundershock, hoping for crits and paralysis, and also hitting through my 1 Sand Attack drop. But after a little while, the stupid bird finally died. Bugsy's next already, due to not much of interesting happening besides Slowpoke well, but like, it's Team Rocket, they ain't doing jack shit to me. Luckily, I have the best early game encounter here, Wacko the Geodude. This guy matches amazingly into the first 3 gyms, and is one of the few counters to Bugsy's Scyther. Anyways, the fight goes really smooth. I take a U-turn, kill Metapod, Scyther wastes a turn by using a focus energy, so I'm easily able to kill it with 1 rock throw. And then Kakuna after that is easy pickings. On my way out of town, my rival Hotspur taunts me, and goddammit, I can't make a no trophies joke anymore! Anyways, he's really easy with DRXX on my team, because he owns both Croconaut and Zubat, and Ghastly was killed by Wacko at the start. So easy peasy. But now it's time for one of the scariest fights in the game. There's always a debate between Whitney and Claire, but due to Whitney being a lot earlier, people usually tend to say her for the hardest gym leader in this game. But luckily for me, I have a Geodude, and I also landed a Drowsy on the route north of Goldenrod, meaning I can trade it for a Machop, which will help a lot here. I led with said Machop, and he easily took out Cleffa, and then the Devil came in. I take 2 stomps and don't get Flitch, allowing me to do massive damage, but due to my low HP, I go to Wacko. Unfortunately, he misses out on high magnitudes, only getting a 7, which means that Miltank barely survives, but luckily for me, Wacko locks the fuck in. Despite getting attracted and stomped on a lot, he's able to not get immobilized or flinch once, and even if my magnitude rolls were freaking ass, I was able to tank the kill with a rock throw just before I would be forced to switch.
What a fucking fight. I make it to Ekrotik and then have to fight Hotspur again, but he's easy yet again. 1 ball HG, the Gyarados Ghastly, Crungio takes out Magnemite, and DRX6 takes out the final 2 peasants. Now it's time for Morty, and I knew damn well this was about to be the hardest fight thus far, even harder than Whitney. So after a bit of thinking, I decide to send it. 1 ball HG cleanly takes out Ghastly, but Gengar does a shit ton with a Shadow Ball. Even though I could have easily tried to tank one and have a high chance to do so, and take the kill, I decided to swap into my bet that I was pissed at back then because I got it over Geodude and Dark Cave. Unfortunately, and also kinda obviously, he doesn't tank it at all, so I have to make a decision to sack somebody to get my Haunter in safely, and I decided to sacrifice my bet. You might be skeptical at that, but I was a lot more attached to everybody else on my team besides Haunter, because I was going to sack him anyways to this fight. To make my life a little easier, I actually go to DRXX first and risk a crit to get off a Thunder Wave. This allows me to hope and pray he gets full paired on the turn I get to Austin, which by an insane coincidence ends up actually happening. Thanks to the paralysis, Austin is able to get off a curse and sacrifices himself to make sure Gengar is cooked. I swap in Crungio and he's able to clean the fight up from there. I lost 2, but at least they aren't that valuable, so I'm pretty satisfied with the results of this fight. After a bit of a stretch, I reach Cianwood and take out Chuck, but I lost the footage, so I'll explain. Basically, I sent in a Tentacruel and he bodied the entire fight by setting up a barrier and slowly chipping down the 2 Pokemon. I don't remember that much details, but I don't feel like listening to my 2-minute explanation, so yeah. And also, this screenshot that I'm showing right now is after some random gym trainer in his gym that was way harder than Chuck himself. Anyways, with the medicine in hand, I'm able to fight Jasmine now, but I have to do it a little underleveled due to Price having a lower level cap. Luckily for me, that doesn't change jack shit, because Crungio takes out Magnemite 1, despite a Thunderbolt crit doing diabolical damage. Not Thunderbolt crit, just a normal Thunderbolt, my bad. 1 ball HG, Dog walks the Steelix, and I know this nickname doesn't fit at all because I evolved the Wooper, but Smant the Quagsire takes out the other Magnemite with ease. Easy peasy badge. After seeing 1 ball HG's autistic cousin, I clear out the annoying ass Rocket HQ, which includes the easiest double battle of all time. Like, what even is the point of this? I have a Dragonite and Aerodactyl with me, I'm never losing. I literally left with a fucking Slowpoke and I won. Anyways, it's time for Price, who I can properly level for, and it was really easy. DRXX beats the 2 Watermons, and Short slowly beats Pillow-Swine. And then it's time to raid the radio tower, and nothing happens because Team Rocket and Hotspur are jokes, even if DRXX almost died during the latter mentioned fight. Anyways, it's actually time for the scariest gym leader fight. I don't have anything to beat Claire's Kingdra, but I do have 2 Ice types for the rest of the team, so let's see how this goes. But little did I know, this would be absolute cinema. DRXX beats Gyarados, but takes a surprising amount of damage from a Dragon Rage. Jaden the Mamoswine, I don't think I've mentioned her yet, beats Dragonair with ease, but then Kingdra comes out and I send out my Victory Bell, hoping to pull off a fucking miracle. Kingdra misses a Hydro Pump on the switch, and despite the smoke screen, Ron gets off a Sleep Powder, allowing a quick switch to Short as he takes a nap. I got off 2 Sludge Bombs as he wakes up with around half HP. Now Dragon Pulse doesn't do that much, so I get off another Sludge Bomb and it nearly kills and also gets a poison on it, but the second Dragon Pulse gets me in a dangerous range, so I decide to just go to C on the heal turn. I don't really get to do that much with C, but the Poison Chip and 2 Aurora Beams is enough for some solid damage. But with nothing else to really do, I decided to go with my planned sack in case I didn't have any more options. And that person was Ron. So he takes the Dragon Pulse, I click Sludge Bomb, and he is supposed to die now, right? But you see, Kingdra isn't the smartest of specimen. He decides to fumble the bag by going for a Hydro Pump, which misses and allows Ron to take the kill. But there's still a Dragonair in the back, so it's into Jaden for a clean switch. Wait, why the fuck does he have Fire Blast? I luckily survived, but I swapped to Joe the Slowbro to tank 2 Dragon Pulses and kill the weird snake with 2 Zen Headbutts. Absolute cinema. I guess it's time to get Lugia, but instead I have to get owned by the Kimono Girls.
The Espeon literally almost killed half the team and ended up critting DRXX to kill him, which hurt like a bitch because he's been one of the MVPs, if not the MVP of the run. However, the rest of them are pretty easy thanks to my good team building, but it still hurts like a bitch that one of my best encounters is now dead. I catch Lugia with a Master Ball to shove him in the box, and now it's time to fight Hotspur for the final time. But you know what, it's the final time, so I guess I'll go into somewhat detail out of respect. Sneasel gets owned by Moxie the Heracross. Also, yes, I know I spelt it wrong. Please don't execute me, Moxie. Jaden 1v1's Golbat with some struggle due to confusion. With the death of DRXX, I do not really have Jack Shifter for Alligator for some reason now, so I had to hope my water types got this. Joe takes a lot from a Crunch, only allowing one Zen Headbutt to land off, which does like no damage, so I decided to go to Moxie, who could actually pack some punches, but does end up taking quite a lot of damage, but ends up still taking the kill. Kadabra comes in and then One Ball HG walls him with a waterfall, and then Sman owns both Magneton and Haunter. We're back at the league, let's not fuck this up. I decided to bring the following team: Moxie, Krungio, One Ball HG, Joe, Smallant, and Jaden. I have no idea what to expect, and unlike the last time, I didn't wait long to start my run. First up is Will. Beat him, and I have a new PB for these Nuzlockes, but he's by far the scariest out of the 4 members I have to fight here. The other 3 I kinda have a plan for, but this is the Drayano Gauntlet. No, it's pure vibes. I lead with One Ball HG, but due to confusion, I end up taking a lot of damage before I kill a lead Xatu. Jinx comes out next, and I go to Krungio, who unfortunately gets put to sleep, and Spadef dropped on the first Psychic, making him prone to death next turn. I swap to Joe and just hope for a 2-turn. I don't know why I just said 2-turn on my script. I'm assuming I meant 2-turn kill, and that does end up happening, but he takes half from 3 Psychics. Xatu comes out next and gets bodied by Jaden. But then the beast comes in. Slowbro. As I switch to Smallant, he sets up a curse, which is horrendous for me, but then he gets to set up another one as I yawn. But even as I swap in Joe, he gets an Amnesia off before going nighty-night, which means my Shadow Balls will now do nothing. I get really lucky with the sleep turns, but unfortunately, I'm barely not able to get the kill on him, which puts Slowbro into heal range, which means I have to set up Yawn yet again. But of course, he seizes the opportunity to be a massive asshole and sets up another Amnesia. Due to that, I swap back to Smallant in the guaranteed sleep turn because an Earthquake would do easily more now. But obviously, thanks to the curse, that also does nothing. So I just kinda have to pray for some luck, and unfortunately it doesn't come because he wakes up as I'm on the verge of killing it. Meaning I have to yawn him again and use 2 Earthquakes to finally take this stupid Slowbro out. This leaves Will with his final Pokemon, Exeggutor, but my counter is now taking a nap, so I'm in a little bit of trouble. I decide to send in One Ball HG, but of course this dipshit sets up Reflect, and also nearly kills my fish with a Psychic. To get a safe switch into Krungio, I swap in Joe to first bait an Energy Ball, but of course he still uses Psychic anyways as I switch. I am so ungodly fucked. So with a heavy heart, I decide that Krungio is the least useful, and I click Flamethrower, hoping for the best. Excuse me? Holy fucking shit, I should not have won that at all, honestly. If Krungio didn't wake up there, I sure as hell would have liked, but okay. Luckily, Koga is a big breather, despite me not leveling up to the next cap. Krungio bodies his first 2 Pokemon, Gyarados and Fortress. Muk doesn't die to Smallant, and he gets low, so I go to Jaden to get him instead. Venomoth comes out, I nearly kill Jaden, Joe kills it, and also Crobat, but I do end up risking a crit because I am a big fat dumbass. Unfortunately for me, Bruno isn't a pathetic joke in this game. Krungio burns Hitmontop without taking damage. Joe takes a surprising amount of damage from 2 Earthquakes, but Onix still ends up dying. Hitmonchan comes in, so I switch to Smallant on a Thunder Punch, and he eventually takes out the opponent, not taking too much damage in the process. But then I decide to make a dubious play once Hitmonlee comes in. I decide to risk my Quagsire dying to a Hitmonlee jump kick, which actually ends up happening. Honestly, I didn't really have counterplay to this, I guess, so I guess it is what it is, but I think there was a better out here. I go to Crungio, and despite getting swaggered, he shreds Hitmonlee with 2 flamethrowers. But now Machamp comes out, and oh boy, I really do not have much for this guy. I go to 1 Ball HG, not wanting to risk the damage with Crungio, and also getting Intimidate off, but this guy read me like a book because he used Rock Slide, which means I have to switch already. I go to Joe on Rock Slide before I decide to just go to Crungio anyways. He takes the revenge insanely well, but I'm not afraid of this guy anymore. So I click Flamethrower and hope for a burn, but it doesn't happen. But luckily for me, his Rock Slide doesn't kill, and Crungio Blast Burns to take a close victory. Remember when I almost sacked this guy a couple minutes ago? This man's death isn't the end of the world, but he's still nice to have around, so losing him here is pretty bad. But I figure I'll be fine for Karen. And now it's time for Moxie to do something! And of course I lead with him because, no shit. I obliterate Umbreon with a close combat. Murkrow dies to a 1 Ball HG Ice Fang. Houndoom dies to a Waterfall, but if it crit its move, 1 Ball HG would have been dead. Vileplume gets roasted and toasted by Crungio, but then our scariest Pokemon comes out. I swapped to Jaden, but he has fucking Focus Blast. So then I just decide to send it, and the craziest turn of all time proceeds to happen. I decide to risk it, and of course, that fails miserably. Is what I would say. But Jaden ends up living on 1. But of course, I decide to click Earthquake on a Levitate Pokemon because I'm very intelligent. Way to fucking fumble the bag. Now my only good counter to this is Joe, but risking a very obviously expected ghost move. But this Gengar actually doesn't have one besides Lick, which used on the switch-in, so I'm able to yawn it and Shadow Ball it twice to win while it misses a Focus Blast and uses Spite. Very smart play, Karen. But now, with all these trials and tribulations, I have reached the champion. And of course I forgot to level to the cap. 6v5, but luckily for me, I have an insanely cringe plan in my arsenal. I lead with Joe and use Yawn while he tanks a Dragon Pulse like a fucking menace. I then switch to my executor of this plan, 1 Ball HG, as this Gyarados takes a little nippy nap. But unfortunately for me, his Gyarados wakes up as I reach +3, but I decide to set up +6 anyways, as he fires off Dragon Pulse after Dragon Pulse. I get down to 34 HP, but I just don't give a fuck. With my health Wildlands, my Ice Veins cannot miss, so I just watch the party die. But the Gyarados actually ended up living my Ice Fang, but luckily didn't crit, so with 10 HT, it's time to actually watch the party die. Gyarados, dead. Aerodactyl, dead. Dragonite 1, dead. Dragonite 2, dead. The level 50 Dragonite, dead. To a crit that I don't know if it was important or not. And then the final Pokemon hits the field, and this happens.
Charizard. Waterfall it! Send us home! This is my second Nuzlocke win! Heart Gold and Soul Silver is mine! Coming back from that terrible loss against Aaron and Platinum to this. That was for Small Ant. That was for Drew. That was for so many people that are in my box 2 right now. I am the Johto champion. I love you. Slow bro, Joe, man. Joe has been one of the best encounters I could have ever asked for. Of course, the Gyarados. 1 Ball HG. How else would I would have won that Lance fight without him? I didn't even level to the cap, man. Jaden came late and did some heavy lifting. Ice Path. There he is, Crungio, my starter. He was so good, man. Crungio, what a legend. He prevented that wipe by raking up. Moxie couldn't do a whole lot in the Elite Four, but oh my gosh, ever since I got him in the Wake of Rage, Destroyer. Small Ant 07, man. Such a great encounter I got, Route 32. You will be missed, even though your person I named you after does not approve of you being a Quagsire.
I have won my second ever Nuzlocke, and what a lucky way to do it. Whether it be Claire's Kingdom selling, that insane wake up from Crunchio and Will's fight, this run was fucking awesome. But we're only halfway done. The last two games are notorious for being among the most difficult Nuzlockes in the mainline games. So let's see if I can defy the odds yet again.
Alright, as you know, this is the only game I've actually played from these, but I think this will still be the hardest one yet. So I decided to change up my starter pick in this game and go for Tepig instead of Oshawott. I think it's really good for a really scary early game fight that I'll get to in like 5 seconds from now. Anyways, not much of interest happens until my first gym leader fight against Cress. Vanilla my Tepig on Lillipup and even tanked a water gun before I swapped the chocolate to slowly 1v1 the water monkey for an easy first badge. Despite the jump scare, Charon 2 was easy, so I'll just take this time to mention that I have no idea why I decided to make my nickname theme for this be ice cream flavors. As you'll see, I'm not even sure if some of them even are ice cream flavors. I just don't know what I was smoking here. Also surprising for me, and in Nectarine City was really easy. So with that, it's time for that scary early game fight I was just talking about. And that fight is Lenora. I lead with Strawberry to Pidove, but an Air Cutter did nothing, so I swapped my Woobat, who lives a takedown at 1 HP. Chocolate also doesn't take a Retaliate well, so I have to swap to Pecan. Pecan didn't tank a takedown well, so I had to swap to Strawberry immediately, who didn't tank a bite well, so I just swapped to Caramel, who eventually finally took out that stupid Herdier with a takedown and an Intimidate. Unfortunately for me, I wanted Caramel for Watchog, so this is kind of unfortunate, now that Watchog is actually out. But I know now damn well I have to make a sacrifice due to the incoming Retaliate that's going to do a bajillion damage. And then, I think I made a bad one here, because I actually went for Pecan. He gets to live one turn extra due to a mishypnosis, but ends up dying anyways. From there, Vanilla is easily able to 1v1 the Watchog thanks to some amazing hypnosis dodges. Only one death here isn't terrible, to be honest. Yet again, not much of interest happens before the next gym leader, which is Berg, and he's also uninteresting because of Vanilla's existence. I set up 2 work-ups and then body his entire team despite being quite low, thanks to Dwebble living a fitting charge somehow. Until now, none of my rival fights have been that entertaining, but of course, Sharon's dumbass has to make it an exception now. But it wasn't 3 of his 4 Pokemon that actually caused trouble. No, it was his stupid Lipard, who decided to use Pursuit to end my Timepole's poor little life. I hate Sharon so much. And in Nimbasa City is a little more difficult compared to his last fight, but still pretty simple besides risking my newly obtained Scrafty. But little did I know what would happen in the upcoming gym. My Namas thought I was a genius for teaching Chocolate Rock Tomb for dealing with the Emolgas, but guess what? They know Aerial Ace, which meant my plan was thrown into the shitter immediately. Caramel was able to drop 1 Emolga after that, but barely because he only had 5 HP after the spamming Volt switches that they constantly did. I decided my best move is to send him my Sandile named Mint Chip, but an Aerial Ace does way more than expected, and I didn't take the kill before it happened. After that, Elise heals as I go to Ketchup, who actually bodies Zebstrika with 2 Fire Punches when Emolga Volt switched into it. Despite my good positioning, I decide to make it out alive. I actually have to sack something to the Emolga, and I easily go with Banana. But then, after that sack, I decide to completely fumble the bag, because I went to Mint Chip thinking that I could tank an Aerial Ace, even though I could have never done that in a million attacks. And so, just like that, there goes one of the best encounters in this entire game. Awesome. The only person that can actually do something now is Vanilla, so I go to him, he tanks an Aerial Ace, he fires back with a Flame Charge, that does good damage, but of course Emolga Static activates, so the only way I can prevent a wipe is if I dodge a crit and hit through Paralysis, and I ended up living on 1 HP and hitting through the Paralysis to win the fight. Holy fuck, that was way too close. I hate Emolga so much. But now I think you can guess why Entrance of the Gladiators is playing, because this circus is just getting started.
I lose Caramel due to an unexpected crit from Sharon's Tranquil, which, keep in mind, did consistently 12 damage with air cutters. I would have never guessed in a million years that an air cutter crit would do 27, but whatever. I lose Vanilla to some random Pampor in cold storage. I lose Strawberry to some random gym trainer, and then finally is Chocolate, who I also lost to a gym trainer because my stubborn ass didn't evolve him due to an oncoming move. So do you think I even stand a chance against Clay? Yes, and actually. I may only have 4 Pokemon, but I do have some potential outs here. I lead with the appropriately named White Poison the Fungus, who nearly gets chomped to death immediately by Krokorok, but luckily he does get the O-code, but the damage is still dealt. As Extra Drill comes in, I go to my overleveled Cincino, but it's only by 1, and plus it's sack fodder for Extra Drill anyways, so I don't think this is like an insane crime. With that sack done, I go to No Ice the Girder to hopefully get something done. He Hone Claws as I Wake Up Slap, allowing for some massive damage. From the range displayed on screen, I thought that Calais was going to heal, but I was wrong. And of course I get punished hard for it, because I decided to bulk up, and as I did that, he crit his slash, which didn't kill, but because I'm slower, No Ice will go down now. Unfortunately, Fungus also doesn't live a slash, but Effect Spore and Rocky Helmet allow Ketchup to take the kill. Yeah, that's right, it all comes down to a small fire monkey. And his final opponent is a water ground frog. You might think I'm completely boned here, but you'd actually be a little wrong. He uses his first turn setting up an Aqua Ring, which allows a free Facade to get off. Unfortunately, he gets a Muddy Water off next turn, but I survive, and my next Facade barely leaves him with anything, but then I decide to make the biggest sell of the century. I click Worked Up, completely forgetting I wasn't faster, which allows the Muddy Water to kill me next turn, ending the run. All of my death snowballed into something I couldn't stop, and I wiped incredibly early, but this early game is brutal, so I'll give myself a pass here. But this last one is going to be by far the hardest one. I have watched hardly any White 2 content, and I've never touched that game in my life, meaning my first ever playthrough of this game will be a blind hardcore Nuzlocke. I am 99% sure I'm not winning, but let's send this shit anyways. Unlike the other 3 games where you cannot watch any of the footage at all here, I actually made this one into a public series, but I cannot recommend watching it at all, because it's very boring, and unless you want to watch me do the fights and react to this game blindly, there's no justification for wasting about 9 hours of your time. If I ever do another playthrough series, I will actually make it watchable. And an even another reason to not watch it, one of the episodes is privated due to me realizing my audio is literally non-existent for half the episode after I watched it back to record, to write about one of the fights in this game, so yeah. Even though this is my first playthrough, I won't go into crazy detail of what actually happens here outside the battles, because that's boring and this will make this big ass video longer. For my starter, I go with Oshawott because it's my favorite out of the bunch, and I name it Jerry, starting the second worst nickname theme of the run. Yeah, I don't know what I was smoking with this one and also white ones, but at least this one is kind of funny in a way. You'll find it out in 5 seconds, so I won't bother saying what it is. Anyways, I smoke my rival's Snivy in a 1v1, and then I also get to smoke this stupid guy again. I see Team Plasma, beat up little children, and just like that, it's time for Badge 1 against my arch nemesis. This motherfucker named Charon caused me so much pain my White 1 playthrough, and you just saw that he killed 2 of my Pokemon last run. I have to beat his ass and get vengeance. I lead with Jerry and set up a Focus Energy turn 1. He goes back and forth with Pattrap before he gets too low to pick up the kill, but at least 1 potion is now down. I have to switch to JJ, the Lillipup, but he easily takes the kill after taking a tackle on the switch in. And then from there, JJ locks in and flinches the Lillipup before high rolling and taking the kill on the next turn. Sure, you do you, JJ. Fuck you, Jaren. Literally nothing happens on the road to Verbank, so it's already Badge 2 time. I still don't have a full team of 6, but it's fine. I lead with Jay the Patrat against Coughing. He doesn't get the kill, but it wastes a potion, so I'm still chill with it. After that, I swap to Jeremy, my Elekid, who easily takes the kill from there. He also does some nice chip to Whirlipede before I switch him out for JJ, who also chips it down a bit from there. Unfortunately, due to Poison Point, I do have to switch JJ out, but it's fine because now I can swap to my star player, Jerry, who is now easily able to take a kill even after a protect with a razor shell. I sit through the sludge of Pokestar Studios, I get lost in the sewers, and now it's already time for Berg. But he was even easier than the last two. And also look, my buttons are now gone, hooray! Jane the Golbat also owned Swadloon, Jerry took out Dwebble, and then Jane came back in to easily own Leavanny as well. Colress was actually harder because his Magnemite was a pain in the ass, and his Clink actually almost killed my Garter if it got luckier. I masterfully dress up Jerry, and then I also do an optional battle like a dumbass that I risk my Garter to before taking on Elisa now. This bitch is actually going to be a difficult fight, so let's see how this goes. She leads with the Molga, and I lead with Janice the Krokorok. Unfortunately, this stupid thing gets a static and brings me down all the way to half after it dies to 2 crunches. Are we for real? Whatever. I leave her in one turn against Flaffy to get off a Sand Tomb, but that doesn't actually happen because I get full parried. I go to Jamie now, he tanks a takedown, firebacks, but then Elisa, of course, has to Volt Switch. Because of course, she has to be the most annoying brat on the planet. But Jamie actually ends up 1v1ing the Zebstrika, even with the paralysis that the Flaffy caused. But then, I decide to make a stupid decision. The Zebstrika left me with low HP, but I still decided to keep Jamie in against the weakened Flaffy. I died to a Volt Switch quite easily. I took care of Flaffy 2 turns later because of paralysis and a Razor's Leaf miss, but it wasn't without a loss. But hey, 1 is better than 4 at this point. Besides getting N's old Zorua, nothing of interest actually happens before Clay. I forget to hide my buttons like a buffoon, but it's okay. I lead with Jerry and he takes out Krokorok and Sandslash, but by the time I'm done with the latter, I'm actually down to half HP. I switched to Jane on a hopeful ground move, but that wasn't, so it was Metal Claw. So I decided to switch to Janice. And then...
Insane baiting here. Oh god, Slash is gonna hurt. No! No!
After this, I went to Jessica, but she got slammed by a Rock Slide, so I decided to go to JJ for an Intimidate and some Chip. I only get 1 crunch off without a defense drop, but now I don't have any more options. And yes, before you ask, I didn't have anything better besides Jeremy here somehow. But, with a heavy heart, I decide I have to sacrifice JJ for the greater good of the run. So that means I have to send it with Jerry anyways. I barely take a resistant Metal Claw and hit the Razor Shell to Oko the extra Jill for the win. I have beaten my Pokemon White run, but at what cost? I lost an OG member and one of my favorite Gen 5 Pokemon. After that tragedy, I have to keep going. I beat up Eagle, Colress, and Charon at the stupid tournament. I raid the Plasma ship before getting escorted off by the Shido Triad from last game. And then purge through Sergeant's Cave and grab some encounters by Mr. Alton City. And yeah, that's all before my next fight against Skyla. For this fight, I actually decide to lead with Julio the Nosepass for fun. Despite the attract, he takes out Swoobat before I have to switch him out against Skarmory, whom I actually have no answers for, so I just decide to go to Jerry and hope it works. But it actually does, cause 2 Surfs end up bodying the stupid Steel Bird. I leave Jerry in against Swanna and he actually does some good chip before I switch to the plan counter Jeremy, who easily one-taps it with a discharge. You know, I haven't spoken about the events that lead up to the next gen that much, but that's because there really wasn't much to discuss. From now on, there's actually going to be things to discuss. A perfect example is this, and honestly I feel embarrassed just writing this down in my script and watching it on my screen right now. But this happened against 2 random Ace Trainers. Yeah, I didn't bother to look at the fact that my discharge hits my ally as well, which is something that is universal across generations. And yes, that text box that just appeared on your screen is true, but guess what, that's not even it, because this happens as well.
No! He set up 2 curses! I hate Ace Trainers!
I know I'm stealing lines from the outro, but if there's one main takeaway I have after these 4 Nuzlocks, is that Ace Trainers deserve to be erased from existence. Their annoying stinky aura made me lose my starter, and just casually now a rock move ends my bat's life, and of course it lands a crit, because I bet he would have tanked it without the hit. I meant she. I mean, I guess I got a Staryu in Undella Town. I hope he doesn't die in a stupid way as well. I also beat my rival's ass in that same town, so hooray. After that incident, I literally spent an entire episode just trying to recover, by the way. Anyways, I beat Zinzolin's ass in Lacanosa Town, land some solid encounters like Judy the Zangoose on the way to Opelucid City, and then I can finally fight Dre. Are you fucking kidding me? That is how 3 deaths that happened because of Oko crits that I could have never seen coming. I hate critical hits so much. And just to add salt to the wound, this upcoming Draven fight is where my right prediction was. I didn't do one for all the other games, but I honestly should have, but luckily for me, I have a plan for this. Thanks to watching Papacy, I found that there's a guy in Driftvale that can tutor moves, and one of those moves is Ice Punch, and one of my box's strongest physical attackers can learn it. So of course, I take that opportunity in a heartbeat, and now I use it as a key strat to win. I lead with Junie, who is the Mon I did this on, and she owns Drudigan and Flygon before I send in my male Combi for a sack. I then go to my Zoroark disguised as my Unfacent for some reason, who uses Foul Play, does a lot, and then this happens.
Oh no, it's over. Zoroark just is dead here.
And yes! Let's go! I finally dodged a stupid fucking crit. Anyways, it actually turns out that the real villain here is none other than Zinzolin. Cause, I managed to lose half my team here. Yeah, my planned lead of Jackie immediately goes to shit because I forgot that the damn Snowflake is specially bulky, not physically bulky, and an Ice Beam nearly OHKOs. I switched to Jeff, but despite the dang thing being kinda low, I managed to take about half trying to kill it. And then Weavile came in, and when I switched in Judy, I realized she would die to a crit. Zoroark actually tanks it quite well, so I get off a Foul Play before I am already forced to switch out thanks to a crit slash. I swapped to Jeff, hoping to tank whatever move came in because of Zoroark's pitiful HP, which ended up being Ice Shard, even though I thought it was going to be Slash. After him, I go to Jeremy, and he gets a static off as I switch him in. Even though I knew I was going to be dead next turn, I figured the Thunderbolt could kill, and if not, Paralysis could come in clutch, but of course neither happened, and now Jeremy is dead. But then after that, I make a silly play. I foolishly send in Zoroark. And of course, I get him immediately killed because I forgot about Ice Shard's existence. Jim takes the kill, but dies to the next Snowflake because I left him in out of sheer panic like an idiot. Luckily, Judy finished the rest of the fight with a close combat, but that was a fucking disaster. Besides that, nothing much of interest happens on my way to Stage 1, the Crash Out stage, is Gym, besides the Marine Tunnel and the gym itself being beautiful. And all that prettiness on his way to a gym for Mon to get swept by this random deer named Jaquest. And then Jessica too once Jellicent disabled Hornleech. And now I have to stop Team Plasma. Oh yeah, the stupid bitch somehow killed Jeff with a Ragnarola because of, guess what, a critical hit. Because of this run, whenever Flygon HD reminds me to play around the critical hit, I get Vietnam flashbacks due to all these stupid fucking deaths. Whatever. The first frigate raid was very uneventful, with Zinzolin the double being piss easy, but the second raid had something else to say about that. It's fine for nearly all of it, until I reach the control room where I fight Colress, who turns out to be a Team Plasma associate. I agree with Janet, and I think I'm a genius because Magneton is weak, but of course he Volt Switches out, and it still did a lot but at least my HUD jump kick still did a lot on the incoming Magnezone, but that flash cannon that follows also does a shit ton before I kill it. Once Clean King comes in, I swap to Jackie, and even though it shift gears, I'm not concerned. So I rip a Lava Plume, which barely doesn't kill, so I decide to sell the bag yet again. Because even though Eruption is right there, I decide to not use it on the full restore, even though it would have easily killed, and I end up putting myself in the same situation. And I get to pay the price for it, because this asshole somehow knows Giga Impact, which wipes poor little Jackie off the face of the planet. Junji finished it off, and so does, and he also finishes off the Behem after a lot of Shadow Balls due to him spamming Recover constantly. Once Magneton comes in, I switch to Julio, but he Volt Switches again as I try to do stuff against his Metane, but I only managed the Thunder Wave Paralysis on my switch out. Jonesy easily owns it from there due to its spamming agility for some reason, but guess what, I don't got anything for Magneton, and keep in mind I just passed on a close combat on Judy before this fight. Judy tries to do something, but fails miserably, so I have to go to Jessica, who does some solid chip while being paralyzed. From there, I decide to go back on Jonesy on the switch, but due to me easily being able to tank a volt switch, and also because Kurt's body exists. Luckily, Magneton proceeded to sell the bag, because it didn't go for flash canning, which probably would have killed, and instead it went for a thunder wave, which gave me the win because I hit through paralysis. But then I lose another Mon because I forget that Leavanny is weak to bug, and fuck that Excelgor because it took literal years for me to kill it. Anyways, with those stupid deaths done, Eagle finds the stupid life part that he wanted so badly. So I'm just gonna complain about him now. I heard this was one of the best rivals going in, but this generally might be one of my least favorites now. This guy's whole personality is just Team Plasma, and his top story isn't entertaining enough for him to be an interesting character. Plus, he battles you only 4 times. Yeah, that's right, 4. And half of them are at the very beginning of the game. Whatever. Anyways, Getsus wreaks havoc on the entire region, and I witness this badass fight scene and the return of N before I have to fight him. Now, this was something that was haunting me even at the start of the run. If Team Plasma were back, Getsus is surely there, and I'm going to have to fight him. And boy was I correct, and he pulled up with a team full of 6. But even before that, I have to take out Kieran White, who Janet owned easily, but she is already at half now, and now the fight actually begins. Luckily, Janet gets healed, but holy fuck does this fight look so done for. But yet again, I'm also in luck because Janet is a great lead for this fight too, because he used a Kafarikas lead again. I kill it with 2 crunches, but I unfortunately end up picking up a poison along the way. Seismitoad comes in and I pivot to Jacques, who easily takes it out with a Horn Leech and healing whatever chip it dealt. I decided to keep him in against Electros, but I forgot how Switch in AI works, because if I did, I would have known this guy would have a super effective moves against me. Before I am forced to switch out, I go to Julio to tank hits and slowly kill the eel. But with half HP and now being paralyzed, I don't think this guy is going to be living long. Drapion comes in, and I decide to sack Julio for the greater good. From there, I go to Janet, who gets a high jump kick off, before an earthquake crit leaves me with 7 HP and the poison kills me on the end of the turn. This leaves Drapion in the red because I actually got a brick break off the turn Janet tied, so I decide to go to Judy and take the stupid thing out. I swap to Jacob the Reuninclus on Toxicroak, who easily bodies it after taking a nasty sucker punch, and now the Hydreigon comes in. So I decide to sack Jacques to even stand a chance. From there, I decided to send in Jonesy because the Ice Beam, figuring he could tank a crunch, but he didn't, so 07 to him, which leaves Judy as my only remaining weapon for this guy. He misses the first Dragon Punch, and my Ice Punch barely doesn't kill, but then, the following turn happens. A Dragon Run connects and leaves Judy with just 6 HP to spare, which allows the finishing blow, but was it even worth it? I just lost 4 Pokemon, and you've seen how the bodies have just been piling up in my box, and just how awful my team compositions have been lately. You've also seen how many times just how awful of a Nuzlocker I am. So do you think I have a chance left anymore? I bet you're now expecting the music to change to some motivational shit, and I would be going on about my victorious comeback and about how I won this Nuzlocke completely blind. But I'll just read you the title of the preceding episode. I am the worst Nuzlocker of all time. Now keep in mind that the edit excluded some of the deaths that happened in that final episode, but now, that concludes my attempts at a Nuzlocke in every Pokemon DS game. I honestly don't know how to end this. I picked up 3 new pretty ugly losses, but I also picked up a new win, my second ever in fact, and this second win was much better than my first. Obviously I lost more Mons, but it was the unforgettable clutches of luck in that run that made it all the more special. Plus, I got to experience these games for the first time now. Platinum was incredible, and it's by far better than Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and also the originals probably. Soul Silver slaps just as hard as I expected, and White 2 was also really good. So even though I ended this entire thing on back-to-back embarrassing-ass deaths, I don't think there's really that many negatives to take away, because one day I will be back for vengeance once I get better, because I still stuck really bad. I wish I could write more considering this the outro to my new longest video, but I just can't because there was a lot that happened here. So overall, this was probably one of the most fun videos to do gameplay for, and I couldn't be happier that I finally got to experience the best era of Pokemon. That is the end of my adventures with the DS Nuzlocke. That's the end. Thanks for watching. Peace.